the home of the strike, the farm workers would come by, have breakfast, pick up their pickets outside the hall.
The teatro was here.
And then go over there. And then they come home, and they come back after the strike. And like Roger said, teatro would come entertain them. I saw a video online where these farm workers were reminiscing. They said, yeah, Friday nights was their like social night.
Yes.
Yeah, and they would sing and dance and have music. They'd have Mexican music, and then the Filipinos sing. The strike was not effective, especially for farm worker
Picketing was
movement.
not effective.
I'm sorry, the picketing, because marching in front of the grape fields, which is 5 miles outside of town,
And then workers are inside.
150 miles from a large metropolitan area like LA. Nobody saw them except for national TV, right? So it wasn't effective until they realized that the boycott was the way to go.
And it worked.
So it became a worldwide endeavor.
Yeah.
And it choked the farmers. Farmers felt it. So yeah, this is the famous moment where September 16th, when it became unified.
It was in this building.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
in the church.
Not in the church.
Not in
in
the
this
church.
building. The farmers and the farm workers were both Catholic. But except they were in the east side. The other church was called St. Mary's, and so the farmers all congregated there, and of course they had a lot more influence with the diocese.
Oh, with the bishop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a lot more influence and sway. So I remember after the strike, and after my mom and dad went back to work, it was kind of an awkward Sunday service because we walked into church and there was Cesar and his family, and we call them the Wilgistas. And then on the other side, there were the families that went back to work. So we kind of, opposite aisles and stuff. So it was awkward. I described the situation in Delano was being chaotic.
Correct.
Because all of a sudden, we were when they got to high school, there were growers' kids that were same class with me. It was kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Their moms and dads were my mom and dad's bosses.
Yeah.
My mother was a teacher in the Philippines. She taught first grade. My dad worked for the government as a correctional officer for the federal government. And so they're both college educated when they came here. They couldn't get teaching jobs. My mom couldn't get her credentials, her credits. She tried, but then it was a hardship in the family, so she went back and went to work in the fields. That's a common story. There's some lawyers and doctors who worked in the fields to get their feet wet. But anyway, so I think it was 62, 63 before the strike, but the men were paid $1.10 an hour. The women were paid 90 cents. And you're familiar with in the workplace, the women were always paid less. And my mom, being a school teacher, she wrote a letter. She handwrote a letter to the farmer. And she laid out this argument that, except for a couple of jobs, one of them involved this really sharp knife, and you have to cut a ring around the trunk of the vine.
Girdling.
It's called girdling so that the sugar can come up. It was very physical. The other one was at the end of the harvest season, when the leaves fell out. You had to go there and prune the old vines so that new vines will grow, and that was very physical. It required upper body strength. She said, except for those two jobs, the men and women worked side by side, and she argued why they paid 15 cents more than we were. Right? She wrote a very humble letter to the grower. And of course, she told the ladies, and the ladies, oh man, her name was Nati. Nati, you're gonna get us fired. Everybody was worried. And so no, don't worry, I was very polite. But then one day, they were working, and then one of the farmers pulls up in his white pickup truck, big cloud of dust. And then the farmer walks up and it says, I want to know who wrote this letter. And all of a sudden, the other women start pointing to my mom. She did it. She wrote it. Nati did. And she goes, did you write this letter? She goes, yes, I did, sir. And she goes, well, I want to tell you that I shared the letter with my wife. And she read the letter. And she asked the same question. And I said, I didn't have an answer. So he said, next pay period, we're going to pay the women the same wage.
Wow. Amen.
That's a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing.
Nice story, Alex.
And that grower, his name was Tony Zdenovich. He was the three brothers of VBZ.
Easy.
VBZ. He was the youngest son. I remember that story. And then maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I see in the paper he passed away.
Yeah.
And I wrote a letter on his obituary page telling that story to his family.
Well, that's good.
And I ran into a grandson of his,
Yeah.
and I told him that story, and he appreciated it. When the Manong died and stuff, did they clear out the room and look at the belongings?
Yeah. Then the quarters would find $3,000 underneath the bed sheets, or they didn't trust the bank.
That's right.
See, a lot of those Manos that came, I would say 75% of them died here, bachelors. They sent their money home, but no family. They just died alone, except for their friends. But it was sad. The first sets of Manos, they lived a hard life. I mean, when I went to the labor camps, they were there for 20, 25 years, the same room, day in. It was
And it was all about work.
all about work. I mean, look, the only good time was on the weekends. They go to Chinatown, they go to dance halls, gamble a little bit, and then their sole possession might have been a car, at the least. The lucky ones that were brave enough married Mexican, American Indian, black, white, you name it. And they lived in town, because I went to school, Alex knows, went to school with all kinds of mestizos. Okay, mestizos, ratio between mestizos, the half, and the pure bloods, I was a pure blood, it's like 50-1. Thank you.
Okay, this was 1988.
1988. It was substantially later.
Yeah.
It was his last fasting.
Was
This
it?
lasted the longest.
The first one was the one where
We're gonna go next.
was it-
This one lasted longer, 36 days. This one nearly killed him. I'm a high-tech guy. I have no idea.
Where's your saints? Where's your saints? Oh, you still got that. Okay, so where's your wife?